Okay, I think I'm on here now. Whoops, give me 1 second. I got to do a little bit of cleanup here with my system and get going. So, just to let everybody know, I'm doing the stream because I did not get to get a host. Um, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to give me just 1 minute because my system is acting up, and I'm gonna have to figure this out before I can actually get this working properly. I had to update Windows today, and things have not gone well for me since then, to say the least. All right, I'm just about there. Okay, good. I think I've got this all figured out. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream. If someone could just tell me in the comments if you can hear me, that would be great. Let's see. I got Daniel here. I got Chuck, Manny, Killer. Okay, John, thank you very much. All right, what I'm going to do right now, excuse me. The reason why I'm doing this live stream again is because I didn't get a guest this week, so I thought I'd let you guys ask the questions. But before we get there, I just want to play for everybody, if I can get this to work properly, my Crom the Destroyer trailer for the new book that's coming out. It's only about a minute and a half. If you haven't seen before, I just want to let everybody take a gander at this. And
the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled, our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
All right, so that was the trailer I threw together. Hopefully you can hear me again. StreamYard seems to mute me when I don't have something else going on. But like I said, this is the trailer I threw together for Crom the Destroyer. It is mostly the work of Jim O'Reilly and Mike Gustovich, who are doing the art for it. And I thought when I put this trailer together, when I did that, that I have to sell this book both as a black and white and as color. So if you're into Crom the Destroyer, that's why I made sure that I showed you both sides of the art there, because I don't know if I can hide Mike's art underneath all of that color. It's just so beautiful. Although we're having a little trouble getting the art done, which is why we moved on to the Valiant Heroes, and that's why that um, that came out before Crom, because Crom was supposed to come out first. But with all that said, we're moving on to Crom the Destroyer pretty soon. We got most of the Valiant Heroes actually done, and let's see. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me in the comments, right? I'm not going to talk for an hour like I did last year, whereas nobody can hear me. I just want somebody just shout out and make sure. I am not the most capable when it comes to this. Excuse me. Also, I have to say, if I start to, okay, loud and clear, great. If I start to cough or sneeze or something like that, I just apologize profusely. I'm not feeling that great this week, so it's not one of the other reasons why I didn't get to have a live stream. And if anybody wants to ask any questions, just put a question mark there at the end of your question, just so it will stick out to me. I'll try my best to go through the comments and see if we can get any of your questions answered. Anyways, as I was saying, we're almost done actually of almost all of the art for the Valiant Heroes. Mike Gustovich, who's doing the Thor story, he just gave me all the pages for the pencils. I have to take them and give them to Bob. Bob is another old Marvel and DC hand. He's going to do the inking on them, so he'll be really fast on that. Detention, which is the 8-page backup story, we're done. It has to be lettered, but that's it. The other one is Kid Fox, which is Renzo. Renzo is giving me, I think, the last 8 pages within the next 2 weeks. I'm still waiting on Martin. Martin is about halfway through of the main story, which is the Valiant Hero story, which is Pulse Disc and a lot of the characters that you saw from the first book. But we're moving along really quickly. I think we're certainly going to meet or actually get that book out before it says so on the page, which I thought I put up, I think around October of this year, but I think we're going to get that out quicker. So if anybody's waiting for that, it's going to come out probably this summer. Again, we're just waiting on a couple of pieces of art, especially from the main story. Then I got to get it lettered, and since I'm already familiar with the printing process, that'll hopefully make it a lot easier and quicker. Okay, so someone has asked, question mark. I don't know how exactly to say your name. What is your thoughts about digital comics, best digital file formats, devices to read on, page sizes, distribution, and payment systems? I actually don't read digital comics, so I have no idea what you're talking about when you say formats, devices to read on. I only have one device to read on, and that would be my computer. I hate things on the phone. They're just too small for me. So I would just read them on the computer. So what system? I don't know. I probably will have to figure all that out, because I really, really like doing the detention story, which is a new character along with Cardinal. Cardinal is one of the main characters. I'll put her picture up here in the background. Oh, actually, I'll put some of the Thomas Valiant stuff up in the background, just so you have a little bit of something to look at, except for, my shield. But since I really like doing that detention story, which was a very lighthearted story, I'm going to try to do some more in that vein. But since I'm going to do that, I'm because the first story, the backup story for the Valiant Heroes is, like I said, Detention, which is an 8-page backup story, but it's done by a manga studio. So I'm probably going to get another manga studio to handle the secondary story for that character, and I'm thinking I'll put it out digitally. So how that's going to work, I'm not entirely sure. I've already got a couple of bites from people who want to post my stuff. I can't remember. Star, but rarely I should post there more. So I might get that going more with the digital, but I really don't know. I am out of my league when it comes to digital. I like hard copies, and I don't pirate things. So I only read what I have in my stash. So let's see if anybody else has a question. John says, I enjoy your work, but I am curious. Why do you choose a heist plot for Thomas Valiant, and how does the heist plot embody the 4 virtues? Well, see, I don't want to hit people over the head with preaching in any way. I think you've got enough of that from mainstream comics. So the virtues are in the background. It's the being heroic. It's the becoming a hero. There are slight nods to virtues in the background. You'll notice that when their team is doing well, Thomas Valiant is running up Prudential Street, which is a word that means prudence. And then when he starts to make bad decisions, Calculator calls him on it and says, you're not being prudent. You'll also notice that the courthouse is where this whole thing starts, and you see Lady Justice in the background. So you got prudence and justice. If you bought the map, here's the thing: if you bought the map and you know where everything is according to the map that came with that, which I'll probably reprint at some point with other material, you'll know that it, well, basically is a combination of old Gotham, which is basically London, and New York at the same time. There was a combination of these 2 cities. So we also have an island off of the main city. It's not Liberty Island though. It's Fortitude Island. So that's on the map. And so I have nods to the virtues in there, and you'll see again that it's the process of trying to be virtuous. It's not me preaching about virtue here in my comics. It's action. So I wanted action. I thought, what is the best way to do action? The heist, I wanted to give it some class because we had Phantasm in there, and she's the classy one. I wanted to give it some class. So like I said before the book came out, it's a bit of a nod to Ocean's 11, the original Ocean's 11, and I suppose the one with George Clooney, but the original one was Frank Sinatra, and I felt that was a classy story about these people who were not virtuous but became sort of more virtuous in the process of trying to do something not virtuous. But I sort of hammer that home more than Ocean's 11 ever would. So that's why I chose that, because again, I was trying to harken back to a more classy kind of feel, and I wanted my characters to have that kind of feel. If you see Thomas Valiant in the pages of the book, you know, it talks about him being a soldier and a spy, and he looks the spy part when you talk about that and things like that. So like I said, you'll notice that when he's doing well, you'll see things in the background like justice and prudence. When he's not doing well, you know, Calculator tells him, you're not being prudent. This signals his downfall. This signals, you know, it's a foreshadowing of you're not being virtuous, things like that. So that's a long old answer to that question, but yeah. Let's see if I can see any more questions. Scrolling down. Let's see. Manny says, I'm working on my own fantasy story, but I have trouble naming cities, towns, and other places. What is your process in giving names to these places? Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I have to. It's the logical part of my mind, but I have to pick a place that actually exists and then place my stuff there because I calculate things. It's like, how long would it take for the characters to get from this place to this place? If they're on foot, if they're in a car, and then I use that as a calculation because I know the basic outline of the story. Therefore, I say it's going to take them this long to get from here to here, and that plays into the story and how things evolve within your story. So I always pick a real place, and I try to pick a name if it's a fictitious place that's not going to get me sued. Obviously, Gotham is not going to get you sued because that's London. That's the old name for London. So that's what I do. Pick something that is already out there and just riff off of it. Is my way of thinking. Let's see. John says, how do you go about getting artists to work with? Was there a resource, or did you have some connections already made? No. Well, my connection is my YouTube channel. John, basically, I started to talk about Virtue. I started to talk about comics and Virtue, and people just approached me and said, I'm an artist. Do you want to do something with me? So you got to put yourself out there. How you're going to do it, that's up to you. But you have to attract some people's attention. You can go and find them on Twitter or on other platforms, and they'll say whether they have commissions open, and you can DM them and say, how much do you charge per page? What's your page rate for internal pages? Things like that. And artists are usually pretty straightforward in telling you whether or not they accept work and how much it's going to cost you. But again, Renzo came to me. A lot of people came to me. Who else? Besides Renzo, Mike Gustovich, who I'm now working with, the old Marvel hand, he came to me. Bob, who is the inker. Again, he's an old DC inker and artist. He came to me. He said, I like what you're doing. And this is where the artist came from for me. And off of that, I met Don Chin. Don is actually, he wrote a story, a backstory story for Calculator and Valiant, which will probably be published with Thomas Valiant #2. And Don is the best resource. So you got a network. That's about it. Because Don connected me with so many people. He was out of the game for a little while, but he was publishing indie comics back in the late 1980s. So, he knows Ethan, although I've never contacted Ethan, and Ethan really doesn't know me, but Don knows Ethan. He knows a lot of other people who are in and out of the comic scene. And once I got connected with a couple of people, then you'll get some tugs on the line, whether or not people want to work with you. So let's see. John says, no, that's the one I just answered. Give me 1 second. I'm going to redo that. Oh, crying out loud. Excuse me. I just have to deal with my computer. All right. One more time. I'm going to try and re-up the background so you have something to look at, and then I'll get back to your questions. Best local in my country. Okay. Smith. E. Smith. Spoiler question. Why was the plot about, stealing other people's property count as debuting a new team of heroes? Well, first of all, they weren't technically stealing it. That's what the big splash page is in the second chapter, where it shows the big trophy. It's a trophy. And basically the superhero teams fight it out for the trophy every year. They're just fighting it out in a more subtle form than usually happens. Usually it's an all-out battle for the trophy, which I guess I didn't explain well enough with the plaques that were around in that page. It's supposed to do that. That was my storytelling problem. I guess I didn't do that well enough, but it's a competitive trophy. The entire statue is a competitive trophy that people, teams of superheroes, fight for, to show who's the best hero team. So they decided to show the world that they're a good hero team by taking it out from the victors right under their noses, which would basically announce to the world, hey, we're a new superhero team. It goes horribly bad, and that's why when they learn that, being a hero is not about announcing it to the world. Being a hero is not about having a trophy. Being a hero is going through the paces and being heroic, doing the right thing. So that's where my story fell down, unfortunately, but I'll try to explain that more in later issues. I should have done a better job in the first one. I totally admit that. So let's go down here. Jake says, do you remember the name of the philosopher that was... No, honestly, Jake, you asked me this before. I really don't remember. He talked about self-taught worship. No, I don't. off the top of my head. I really don't. Let's see. Buddy says, "Are you a Christian?" Yes. If you go to my Twitter page, the first thing it lists is I'm Catholic. So yeah. Let's see. Scrooge says, "Do you see the anime? Did you see the anime, The Rising of the Shield Hero?" Yes. I don't know if I saw um, the latest season of it. I think I only seen season 1 and 2. I think there was a third season that came out. I'm not really up on getting to see everything new that comes out. Usually, I watch things years after they come out. But yes, I really like that anime. Not, I mean, the fact is that he does try to be heroic. What's it now for me? But at the same time, again, it's not that he's humble hero in so much as his humility comes from a different place. It's trying to save the world and all that kind of stuff. So I really did enjoy Rising of the Shield Hero, although I have not seen it all yet. So that was Scrooge. Strictly Jake says, "Did Thomas and his team know how risky their symbolic heist was? And if so, how did they justify it? I can understand risking being locked up and shamed, but the stakes seem too high for me." Well, no. Again, hopefully, I'm not ruining the story for anybody who hasn't read the book yet and who ordered it with the second campaign. But the entire thing falls right apart. If you'll notice in the storytelling, when Calculator starts to tell Valiant that he's being imprudent, it starts a chain of events where everything just goes south. And it's very, very small at first. We're late. We missed our first window. They have to go to the second window. The second window makes it entirely different ball game, which they're not ready for. So they were prepared for a much easier task. And the fact that they got caught unawares by Kit Fox alerting basically the entire team that he works with, which is the Legion, that delayed them in order to get across the bridge. That delay caused them to not catch the first window. The second window was, which they never expected they would have to use, was much more dangerous than the first. And he kept on pushing and pushing, which was imprudence again, over and over again, which led to the disastrous results that you get in the end. So let's see. Question mark asks, "What other story models besides the hero's journey are you using to make comics?" Honestly, I was just talking to Graham Nolan, and he expressed it really well. I think it was last week I was talking to Graham, but I really don't look at very much of this is how you tell a story kind of, I don't know, books or anything like that. I do go back to Aristotle. I don't use the hero's journey at all. Actually, I go back to Aristotle. The hero's journey is just a rehashing of Aristotle in a different way. I go back to his poetics, and the fact is that his treatises on drama, which he calls tragedy, are lost. We only have snippets of those, so we don't know exactly what he's trying to say with his stories all the time, or how you describe a story, things like that. So I fill in the blanks with what I can from knowing what I do about Aristotle. But at the same time, as I said, I was talking to Graham, and he said, what you need to do is just look at the good comics. Just go through back issues of what are the great comic stories. He said, and I quite agree, that your blueprint is right there. It's sitting there on the pages waiting for you to discover it if you have not discovered it, or to go back and rediscover it. And those are the great works of fiction, really, in comics, if you ask me. The whole thing is that I don't like the fact that people say, go back to this writer. No, it's not a writer, especially when you're doing comics. A comic is not just the writer, and it's not just the artist, and it's not just a combination of those two people. It's the company, it's the editor in chief, it's everything that ties this entire thing together and gives you a product that would not exist if any of those people in that entire line were gone. So you got to look at, really, you got to go back and read those old stories. That's what I'm doing now, especially for Carmen the Destroyer. I'm going through Conan's, reading my back issues of Conan. I got a bunch of them for Christmas to fill up the the holes in my Conan, and I'm rereading all of my Conan with the holes now filled in. It's really hard to do. I fully admit it's really hard to do because I start to read and I'm thinking I'm reading this in order to absorb the storytelling and how things work and panel layout and all that, and I just get caught up in the story. But I have to go back usually and flip through it, and there's a lot that you can figure out if you're so inclined to picking out patterns from great stories. So that's what I concentrate on. Daniel says, "Hello, Mr. Fourth H. You are what? You are one of my favorite YouTubers. I've been watching your content for about 4 or 5 years now. Cheers from Brazil." Oh, thank you. Oh, sorry. It's not Daniel. It's Daliti. I don't know what those extenuements would do to the e's, if that's what they are. Using my very bad French to try to read Spanish. So, yeah, I've been doing this for about 4.5 years now. So, it's actually getting to be, I don't know, almost up to 500 videos. So that's something. So I'm glad that someone is here from the beginning. I'm really glad to hear that. I've had, like, when I started and I had, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 people watching my videos. I knew everybody's name. We talked, and I'm glad to see that someone's here from the beginning, because I rarely see a lot of those names anymore. John says, "What are the common pitfalls for trying to apply philosophical razors?" Let's see. Covert actors hiding behind. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure what exactly your question is. Besides the fact that, I don't know. Well, I don't put philosophy into my stories. I put the living out of philosophy into my stories, which is why I concentrate on the heroic ideal and heroes. That's the living out of a philosophy. That's the living out of a system of understanding. So I don't think putting philosophy in your story directly in any way is good, especially after we've seen over the last decade or more what it has done to comics and all kinds of stories. So I like I said, and somebody had this comment, one of my other videos, and when I was talking about Nietzsche a couple of weeks ago, and they said this is a bad representation of Nietzsche's philosophy, and I said, well, yeah, it is, because it's not about Nietzsche's philosophy. I'm talking about the living out of Nietzsche's philosophy and how that works. So that's what I concentrate on. Hopefully that might answer your question. Let's see. Another question. Use a language like English and name the places after the surrounding environment. That's a good idea if you're going to actually create a place. That's a good idea. So Francisco says, "Hi RJ, glad to see you're doing live streams again. I'm just doing this. I'm probably going to do this whenever I get caught without a person to interview on a Wednesday or a Thursday. But I should get back into do it. Yeah, as long as you guys can hear me, and I'm not digitizing too much so that I break up, because unfortunately I'm still using satellite internet, and that's not going to change anytime in the near future. If you will excuse me for just 1 minute. Like I said, I'm not feeling spectacular, but so Francisco, congrats on the new section of your channel. Really good interviews. Thank you very much. I try. Oh, look, we got Bancroft. Bancroft is in the house. Oh, good heavens. Do you get any? Yeah, just to answer that question. Do you get a better internet connection yet? I did not. I've learned to deal with it as I have it. And I use StreamYard, for me anyways. There's a lot of different new things with StreamYard if you poke around the back end of it, which allows me to do interviews and things like that in a much easier way, though. So no, that's just the problem with my internet connection is I live in the middle of nowhere. There's probably no chance that I'm going to get any kind of better connection anytime soon, unfortunately. So let's see. John is laughing at Mike Bancroft because yes, no, I'm not going. I don't have a better signal. John has another question. Let's see. Is your day job in academia? What would you consider a good day job to be for someone that wants to make independent comics, have a YouTube channel, etc.? That is, I have no idea how to answer that question. I'll do it as best I can, but Honestly, I don't have a day job. I never really did. Um, I started up a business, but I don't know. My life is weird. Honestly, I had a day job for a little while. It was like 2 years. I worked for a law firm, um, but that wasn't for me. So I started a business, and that business was only part time work for me. I like to be out in the woods. I like to be out in my yard and not just puttering around. I mean, I'm out in the woods with a chainsaw in my hand, an axe in my hand. I'm felling trees to feed my furnace for winter, or I'm planting a garden, or I'm building a building, something like that. That's what the majority of my time is actually done. So I live my life in a way that the couple of days work that I used to do um, made enough money so that I could live in a way where I could pretty much grow my own food and build my own house and all that kind of stuff. So my life, you can't take it as a pattern for anything. It is the strangest thing in the world. Like I said, that's why I live in the middle of nowhere and own a business which has something to do with legal research. Although I don't really have a whole lot to do with it anymore, and that's where my money comes from. But you know, whether or not that's going to survive the coming economic apocalypse, whether or not that's still going to be here after that, I do not know. So let's see. Let's see. John is talking to Bancroft. Let's see. On the hunt for a good co-host. Yeah, Bancroft has had many good co-hosts. He's going solo now, and I think it suits him well. Although I miss Joe, I miss Blue, I miss everybody. But having Bancroft just talk about, I'm sure he has a pattern to it. I'm sorry, Mike, but seemingly random things is quite entertaining. uh, just tuning in to see all his Spider-Man comics, for example. So let's see if I can get any more questions here. A competition of superheroes is a lot more interesting than what you wrote. Take it as a lesson. Yes, agreed. Again, I'm learning as I go here. Unfortunately, I didn't get across as much as I had hoped with that first issue. Let's see. More questions. Question mark, question mark. Whatever that is supposed to be. Do you have any thoughts on the fourth turning, Strauss, Howe's generational theory in terms of cycles of generational archetypes and how they affect the story? Like I said, I really don't pay much attention to those. I go back to Aristotle, and I look for patterns because that's what it is. His logic is pattern recognition. So I find my own patterns. Yes, they're probably stuff that would, I don't know, coalesce with the types of thinkers that you're thinking about, but I usually go back to primary sources. That's what I do. Austin says, "Hey, Fourth Age, how do you feel, or seen any other types of non-comic book superheroes like Power Rangers? How do I feel about? I don't know. I really don't. The thing was that when I left comics, that is to say, when I left off buying mainstream comics, I guess it was around 1996, I just started buying back issues. And I did go into a lot of other avenues for storytelling to try to get my fix for stories, manga, and not really manga, but more anime. But at the same time, I'm not entirely sure about the superhero part of that. One Punch Man is a good show, but as someone pointed out, it's a comedy. It's a comedy about superheroes. But the thing is that I'm more attracted to, I like every once in a while the supernatural, the slice of life, stuff like that. Isekai, which is not really superhero, but kind of, it's more fantasy. So I never really got a fix on superheroes anyplace else than comics, although they're out there. And I'm a story junkie. I'm sorry, but I know it's not the nicest way to put it, and I don't like thinking of myself in those terms, but I'm a story junkie. I need to find my stories somewhere, and if they're not going to give them to me here, I'll find somewhere else. And if I got to go away from superheroes, I will. For example, my novel, which I have a manuscript for, it's not superhero. It's I don't know what you'd call it. It's not. It's more of like alt history, That is to say, what if history went into a different direction? But anyway, let's see. Another question. Hey, RJ, do you think this Insidious? Let's see. I still don't know how to pronounce your name. So, do you think this Insidious perversion, sorry, I'm not understanding your question. It's been going on for how long? Will it end, or will we have to see a lot of our favorite characters be, I'm not entirely sure what that word is supposed to be, lobotomized, possibly, like Luke Skywalker. Oh, LGBTQCIs. Oh, that's what that is. Sorry, I didn't realize what that was. No, I think create something new. Like I was again talking to Graham. Um, well, I talked to Chuck Dixon a couple of weeks ago, and I know Chuck very much likes old heroes like I do. Chuck loves Airboy, and he wants to write old stories or stories about old characters. Um, but when I talked to Graham, Graham said, "No, we got to move into the future. We got to create our own things." And I know that I'm trying to go back to the older kind of heroes and things like that. But that's more of a, I think, a business standpoint, because a lot of people are telling me you're not doing anything original. I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm not doing anything original. That's the point. Part of the point is that you can already see where these characters are coming from. If you know anything about comics, then you can jump right into the action. I don't have to give you a whole bunch of build up. But the thing is, again, also, I've looked at these indie companies for so long and they just failed and failed and failed. Why? Because they didn't do what the original comic companies did, which was to start off by reprinting things. They just jumped into their own characters, and people just didn't glom onto them like the other stories for Marvel, DC, any other company that used to be along there with Marvel and DC, because those companies started small. They started by reprinting stories and then added stories to those, and then eventually they got into their own world and their own characters, which is what I'm sort of trying to do. My business sense tells me, start with things everybody's familiar with, and as you build on that, then you can get more and more creative. Hopefully that answers your question. But like I said, the reason why I said that is because we got to build something new, even if it's on the ruins of the old. So a lot of my characters that I loved, I'll continue to love the old parts and the old media, but I have no real hope that they're ever going to be taken back into a good, I don't know, good hands, good stewardship. Let's see, question mark. Let's see. Strauss, how generational theory? Yes, let's see. I think I answered that one already. Talking about archetypes of the prophet, the nomad, the hero, the artist. Again, I don't really go into those. I like to go back to the very, very old way of thinking about things. So I don't even enter into those. It's just a little bit of window dressing on Aristotle, if you ask me. Let's see. Another question. RJ, your channel is great. Well, that's not a question. That's my fault. But thank you very much. Let's see. Strictly, Jake says, sorry, I was hoping you remembered by now. My apologies. No problem. I did try and I did look, but I don't, for the life of me, remember. So, Jake also asks, but did you understand how dangerous Thor was in a world with maniacs like that? How would you justify it? Justify what, Jake? I'm not entirely sure. But the point is that I'm just trying to show that the other so-called heroes are not heroes. Thor is not a hero. He's a Jekyll and Hyde character, which is why me and Mike Gustovich are doing the Rampaging Thor. We're going back to basically the origins of the character, which is a World War II story, just to show you that there is a man inside that wants to be heroic, but there is the Thor part of what actually Thor is like, not the Marvel Thor, that is not heroic in any way. So I'm not entirely sure what exactly your question was there, Jake. So hopefully that answered it. Let's see. Okay. Carly is in here once again, trying to stir up the pot for no good reason, but that's fine by me. Another viewer on my list is great. Let's see. Someone is replying to Gunslinger. Have we seen Crumb from the comics? if I could answer that very quickly. There is a couple of issues of Conan for Marvel, if you're looking for it, that they do show Crom. He basically looks like a Viking. Let's see. Let's see. Francisco says, I agree with looking for comics by age and not by authors. Okay, I think he's actually asking someone else that question. So you're all chatting amongst yourselves. I'll see if I can keep my nose out of your conversations and look for comments for me. Let's see. RJ, read the original stories by Howard and the later edition by, I'm not entirely sure what that French name is. Okay. Oh, yes, for Conan. Oh, yeah. Again, if you go through Marvel's, especially Savage Sword of Conan, you will have a pretty good idea of all the original stories, even the later books. Again, please excuse the Twilight Zone. That is not you going crazy. That's just something that has to do with me and in my background noise. Anyways, yes, I agree. Read Howard. Read those other stories. Again, Marvel will give you a good taste of them, but if you don't have time to read them, they're pretty much all on YouTube now. People reading them to you. So those stories are there. A lot of them, again, greatly presented by people on YouTube as they all come into the public domain, one after another. That's what's happening with them. So again, let me re-up the background so you don't have to listen or look just at the shield. Anybody? Let's see. Any other questions? Scrolling down. You will have to excuse me again for 1 second. As I said, I do apologize, but I'm not feeling the greatest, so just give me one second. Again, apologies. I really just had to clear my throat. More questions. Hopefully I'm not missing any questions here. Is there any more to the story of the school employees getting angry over you saying boys will be boys? It sounds really funny. Is there any more to the story? Well, yes, there's more to that story, but I don't know if I could share it online. Yeah, they wanted to throw me out the building when I said boys can be boys. I had several meetings with these people and they nearly ejected me from their meetings more than once, just for saying things like that. But I won't go into it any more than that. Let's see. More questions. Scrolling down. See if I can get any more questions for me. John says, how far would you be open to expanding your publications? Would you expand into other genres? Would you hire writers and editors? If I could, I would. But I don't think that that's going to be in the cards, really. I am expanding into other genres. I'm going to try again, like I said, probably to publish online. Again, the story for that's coming out of detention, which is the backup story, and Cardinal, which is one of the main characters that you're going to get in the Valiant Heroes. It's a superhero story, but again, I'm also going to hopefully, as I said, employ a manga studio to do that story. And once I do that and have a better footing on the manga ground, and the people there and more artists, I will probably, my plan is to take my manuscript for my novel and turn it into a comic, turn it into a manga style comic, because it's very much, I think, that kind of book, very much like Grand Blue Fantasy or something like that, if you know that anime or anything like it. So I think that would feed into that, and hopefully it's concentrating on a different kind of genre. I really want to tie everything back to the Fourth Age, the one world. Whether or not I could do that, I don't know. I really don't like this idea of having many different worlds going at once. But at the same time, yes, I will experiment with other things. I have so many stories written right now that I want to get published that I'm starting to do other things because I need to stop writing and start doing other things. I've started to draw again, to see if that's going to help me with anything that I have to do. I haven't drawn for a long time. It's probably been about 20 years. and I'm still just working off of how well I can mimic other people's styles. But things like that. If I had the chance and I could hire other people and we could expand, yeah, I would love to, but I just don't see that in the cards anytime soon. If it happens, great, we'll run with that. Let's see. Greg says, are you going to add things like old skills in your comics? Things like using a flint in steel along with a piece of charcoal when lighting a fire? Sorry, that question might not be for me. I'm not entirely sure because I don't think flint and steel have. Oh, if you're talking about Crom the Destroyer, possibly you're talking about Crom the Destroyer. If that question is about that, am I going to add things like old skills in your comics? Not particularly. Yeah, the skills need to come in because things need to be done, but there's so much action just rammed into a lot of my comics, especially the ones that I'm doing now, that there's not a whole lot of small things that happen and not really explanations for it anyways. But let's say I get 10 issues into Crom the Destroyer, then I'm sure that such things will come into play. Let's see. Greg says, are you going to add, that is a question I just talked about. Let's see. Puffy says, do you use a script for your videos? You're extremely well spoken. Well, thank you very much. I am not extremely well spoken. I don't know where. I'm sorry, Puffy. Yeah, you must have hit your head or something. I am not well spoken at all. No, I don't use scripts for my videos. I just sit there and talk. I think about something all week, and it's usually because I watch some video or somebody else's thing or has thought about something, and I just sit there and talk for usually an hour. I do edit my videos a lot because what you get, even though sometimes it's a half an hour, 45 minutes, even more, you're getting a pared down version of what I have recorded, usually by about half. So yeah, that's about all. Maybe I'm just becoming good at editing, not actually at speaking. Let's see if I can find any more questions. Let's see. Question. Jake says, how did it feel to finally hold the finished product of your work, your labor of love comic with your characters for the first time? Well, it was bittersweet, I have to say, because the thing was that it was really nice to hold it in my hands, but the printers did make a major mistake in the printing. It's the splash page. I constructed the splash pages for them so that it would go together seamlessly, and it did not. There will never be another double splash page in any of my books because I just can't trust the printers to get it correctly, and they didn't. And some people have called me out on that, and it's a horrible mistake, especially for a first book. And when they showed me the original, the copy that they were going to print off of, that is not what it looked like. So after they printed, 2,000, almost 3,000 copies with the mistake in it, there's not a whole lot I could do. But besides that, the printers were extremely helpful. I worked with them, and they had great prices. They showed me a lot of stuff that I needed to know. They had worked at printing comic books and graphic novels before, so I'm probably going to go with them again. I know their limitations now, like I said, so it was a little bit bittersweet because of that mistake, unfortunately. So let's see. Any other questions here? RJ, don't you use the Elon Musk space link? You get around 1,000 Mbps down. Okay, well, so talking about my internet, yeah, I don't use Elon Musk's, but the one that I'm using is the exact same speed as what I would get with the Elon Musk system, so it's no different. Let's see. Bancroft is laughing again, hopefully at everybody here, including me, but I do not see a question mark. So I will continue on after I once again re-up this. Oh, it doesn't seem to want to re-up. Just give me 1 second if I can. Oh, there we go. I'll see if. All right. So back to Bancroft, and he's laughing. Let's see. Bumface. Hi, RJ. I'm in Leeds, England. Anyway, do you think we can hope for an authentic Superman movie under James Gunn portrays Kal-El authentically, or more accurate more accurate than Snyder's Man of Steel? That's not asking for much. Honestly, no. I don't think. I know everybody's just so happy that James Gunn is there, but he's. I have no confidence in James Gunn. I really don't. He might be playing the game that looks like it's going to work out for us right now, but I don't think that's going to last. I really don't. He's going to give us something darker. He's either going to give us something darker and more off character than Snyder's Man of Steel, or he's going to cave to the woke mob, and we're going to get John Kent and his alphabet people Superman, one or the other. That's what I see. Either that, or we're going to go back to Ta-Nehisi Coates with his race swap Superman, one or the other. There's so many bad options for him to choose right now. The fact that he would choose the best option, the one that would actually honor the character, I think the possibility of that is very slim, unfortunately. Hopefully I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. So let's see. Let's see if we have any other questions. Let's see. SpaceX, Starlink. Manny says, have you ever seen Overlord, the anime? Yes, I have. If you have, what is your opinion on it? Honestly, that's a hard one. I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm going to try to answer these questions as quickly as possible because I only have about an hour budgeted for this live stream. I do have other obligations. Unfortunately, I'll have to go. But yes, I have seen Overlord. It was, I don't know, weird to me because the way that he did things, the darkness of how he worked, even though he was made to do so, he was forced to do so. And like, I only seen, I think, the first two seasons of it. The darkness in it did not appeal to me at all, even though he was sort of being forced to do so. But we never found out how in those 2 seasons he was being forced to do so. Why, when he got upset about things, he got calmed down by some outside force. I don't know where that comes from, but even though there was a lot of light moments in it, the darkness in it actually was really something I did not enjoy, although it was an interesting idea. Let's see. I just want to check my connection here 1 second to make sure everything is working. Seems to be. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to get these last couple of questions in here. Jake says, what are your feelings on Lovecraft? People have tried to make it work and it always fails. I don't like cosmic horror. I understand the complexity of his world and the interesting nature of how things interplay with it. And some people have, rightly so, tried to tie it in with Conan because Howard and Lovecraft actually did write letters to each other, ask if they could use other characters, stuff like that. But I don't like cosmic horror because it's all based upon a nihilism. Goes back to a nihilism. One form or another. There's many different forms of it, and I don't believe in any kind of nihilism, so it doesn't ring true to me. So that's what I think about any kind of cosmic horror, including Lovecraft. Let's see. What are your thoughts on interactive and emergent stories, choose your own adventures, role-playing games, sandbox, open world? Yeah, I talked to Sargon about this very briefly. I always thought that games are the new stories. He didn't agree with me on that, but I honestly think that yes, it will be the future in some way. And again, Graham Nolan and Chuck Dixon, both of them talked to me about that. Their new project, which is Spin Rack, is something that is going to try to employ that exact thing with stories being tied in with games, being tied in with sandbox, open world, etc., etc. Let's see. Scrolling down, I'm gonna have to get moving here. Scrolling down, looking for question marks. How would you justify the risks of the heist with maniacs like Thor? Is what I mean. Sorry. Okay, well, Jake, again, the whole thing goes sideways. Thor was never supposed to be in play. The whole thing again, when you go through the story, as soon as if you hit that point where Calculator tells Valiant, this is not prudent, that's a small mistake, which then come back. It just it's basically gets compounded into every mistake that comes off of that one mistake doubles in size to the point where you get Thor in play where he should not have been there, and so people's lives are at risk in that way. Let's see if I can see any more question marks. Ooh, good heavens, Mr. Playlist Man. What in the world are you doing? I didn't even know I had the ability to accept, what is it? $20. That's amazing. Thank you very much. Let's see what your question is. Love your videos, RJ. You're the only reason I know about the 4 main virtues. I'm 27 now. I just started learning about this stuff because of you years ago. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for the super chat. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. And again, I guess I would be about your age when I started to look into it seriously. At the same time, I used to play games. I used to play the one game that really stuck in my head because I just couldn't beat it was Quest of the Avatar. It was Ultima, and you were journeying, trying to get virtues, and that just stuck with me so much. But I never really understood the virtues as they were until about your age, and then I really went on a quest for knowledge. And it took me a long time just to divest myself of all the things the world had taught me false in order to see what virtue was. So hopefully you're on the same path because it leads you to a great life. Let's see if I can scroll down and get a couple more questions in here. Let's see. Who do you think is better, Spider-Man or Batman? I really don't know. Spider-Man, I would say, I don't know. Spider-Man is a better character, but I just couldn't write Spider-Man. I couldn't. I can write Batman. That's why we have Kit Fox. Although he was supposed to be a throwaway character that Renzo just wanted to save. But I can write Batman, the more logical. I can't write Spider-Man. He's too emotional. I don't know why. Let's see. I got another compliment. Enjoy your channel, RJ. Thank you very much. Let me read this up one more time, and I'll try to get to the rest of these questions before I got to go. Let's see. Great live stream. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Ultima 4, 5, and 6 are the best RPGs ever made. I wouldn't say 4 is among the best ever made. It's the most the one that I played the most, but I would say what's 7 is Blackgate, right? Blackgate I think is probably the best. But it has 2 parts. So there's Blackgate 1 and 2, and you also have Underworld in there, sandwiched in there as well, in between the 2. But anyways, played all those. Yes, Spider-Man's a better character and better rogues gallery. Yeah. But again, I just couldn't write Spider-Man, so I'm more attracted, I think, to Spider-Man. But at the same time, as a writer, I'd be more attracted to Batman. Let's see. Thank you, RJ, for the live stream. He's running out of questions. What's your favorite movie? I don't know exactly what I would say my favorite movie is. I could tell you the movie that I've seen most in my life, because I've probably seen this movie 50, 60 times. It would be Big Trouble in Little China, quite honestly. Used to watch it over and over again, especially when we had it on VHS for the first time. Let's see. Any other games that focused on virtue? Not like Ultima, I don't think. Although it got corrupted to very around, what did it get to, 9? Ultima 9. By the time you got there, their idea of virtue of that game was just horrible. And so was the virtue ideas in it as well. Let's see. Ultima 7 Part 2 was my favorite. That would be Serpent Isle. Yes, agreed. Love Serpent Isle. Spent so much time with the Hoe of Destruction in my hand. Just let you know if you know anything about Serpent Isle. Let's see. Have you already announced the Thomas Valiant fan art thing you mentioned a few videos ago? No, I haven't. I haven't got on to that. I'm trying to. Well, I was going to put it out last week, but I got some notes from a couple of people who told me that you can't really structure it the way that you want to structure it because it would be unfair to some artists. Because if I'm doing it that way, then the people who would take more time to actually produce the art won't get their art in on time. And yeah, so I got to try to restructure the entire thing. Although I'll try to keep it as close to what I had said in my video as possible. Let's see. Let's see. Question. John says, please find my last right before the super chat. Okay, right before the super chat. Let's see. I'll scrolling up. John, have you considered? What in the world? No, I don't even know who that person is. Interview as part of your interview series. I do not know who that is. I don't. So just I'll give you just one. I like everybody giving me these ideas. Please, continue to give me ideas on who to interview. I want to interview more comic people, but at the same time, want to break that up with people from YouTube and cultural things. That being said, everybody's asking for a lot of people, and I'll run down the list just to let you know that is probably not going to happen. I've contacted Critical Drinker. He said politely no. I've contracted Ethan. He didn't answer the question. Well, in a polite way, but he didn't answer the question. So I take that to be a no. I tried to contact Razorfist. I got no answer. I tried to contact Eric July. I got no answer. Although Eric July one was probably about a week ago. He still might answer, but so those are the bigger names. I'm probably just not going to get those people because they have no interest in talking to me. That's just the way it is. Let's see any others here. I'm going to have to go soon. Let's see. There's a couple other questions here. I know there are. Just give me 1 second. Do you know of an Eastern civilization equivalent to the hero as in Western civilization? No, I really don't. Although I did read things like they're coming in hard and fast now. Hold on. I did read what's his name? Gilgamesh and things like that. But I don't really know. I think it is a human thing, but at the same time, it's very much a cultural thing to grab onto the heroic ideal from Western civilization. Everything just jumped on me. So give me a second to see if I can figure out where I was. Oh, here I am. Let's see. Puffy says, if you have played them, what was your opinion of the Arkham video games? No, I had never played them. Let's see. Dang, this keeps jumping on me. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Hey, RJ, what do you think of teaching me about true heroism? Your videos really inspired me in my own work. Well, thank you very much. It says, I want to thank you for teaching me. No problem. I don't really teach anything. I just give you what is out there in the world. So, I'm not really a teacher. I'm just giving you what great men have thought. So let's see. Is there any stories or works you would suggest for people on the path to virtue? It depends on really what your level of understanding and what you want to read. If you want to read straight philosophy, you go to Plato and Aristotle, maybe Thomas Aquinas and Augustine. There's a really good German philosopher who encapsulates the work of Aristotle and Aquinas. His name is Yusuf Pieper. His stuff is now being translated into English. So there's things like that for if you want philosophy. For stories, just read the classics. Read the Iliad, the Odyssey. Read Robin Hood. Read the Knights of the Round Table, sagas, all those kinds of things. Let's see. Any other questions? Let's see. Jasper, let's see. What would be the best way to approach a story, question, and points revolving around maturity? I really don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Just be natural with find people that you really base your stories on. People, I find is the best thing. When are you launching Crom? I already opened up the the page for the sign up page. So that usually gives you 6 months. So at the maximum, it will be 5 months from now. Hopefully, if we get the Valiant Heroes out, we will be before that. I want to get at the very least some of the Valiant Heroes out and starting to ship them before Chrome launches. But again, I will be launching in the window that gives me for Indiegogo. Although probably I'm thinking of opening up another Valiant Heroes campaign on Kickstarter just to see if there's any other audience over there, if anybody wants to know that. Let's see. I'm gonna have to wrap this up. Let's see. I want to ask you, I would call myself a storytelling amateur. Now I have a problem with creating characters, and I try my best not to create self-inserts or Mary Sue's. Any advice? Find historical characters, maybe? I mean, historical people, and use them for a basis, and maybe that will give you an idea of how to put together a good character just based on a normal person that you don't know. Have I contacted Nerdrotic? No, because I don't really know what Nerdrotic and I would have to talk about, since I talk about storytelling mostly. So I'm not really sure about what we would talk about there. Let's see. I interview recommendations. Eglantine, I love comics. Yes. Let's see. Other old school Comic Gates guys. Well, I might see about that. I think I'm going to have Wes on soon. We've been talking about doing that. I've been on his channel a couple of times. RJ, what's your favorite Marvel movie? What's my favorite Marvel movie? Quite honestly, it's not really in the MCU. It would be the first X-Men, honestly. Do you see and have any thoughts on the Puss in Boots? No, I haven't seen it, so I don't really have any thoughts on it. Let's see. Your opinion of the IDW Transformer comics? I've only read a couple, so I really don't have much to go on there. What's your opinion of Captain America: The Winter Soldier? I really like that story. I thought it was a really good movie. Not the best because, well, I didn't find the Captain America story that great for me, just because I already knew everything that was going to happen. So there's nothing jumping out at me. Let's see. They dropped the 6 month limit. Really? You can keep your sign up as long as it's, well, Bancroft, thank you very much for letting me know that. But I probably will still keep it within those 6 months. Let's see. All right. I think I got to the bottom. Did I contact Linkara? I really don't think Linkara would come on my show. Even though Linkara is how I probably got into this entire thing, I really don't think he would. I probably will contact him at some point. Spoonie is the person who got me into YouTube to begin with. Spoonie is let's just say indisposed right now. I shouldn't laugh. The poor fella. He has some problems. So anyways, all right. I'm gonna have to, like I said, I'm gonna have to wrap this up. Thank you, Gordon Goodbrother. That's the last question I'm gonna be able to answer, even if more pop up. I am going to have to take off. I thank you all for coming. Thank you very much for all your questions. I might be doing this again if we or probably will be doing this again, maybe with some guests, just friends like John from John's Long Box, or other small YouTubers. When next time I fail to get someone to do my video in time. So, and thank you very much, Mr. Playlist Man, for the super chat. Thank you. Thank you all for showing up, and I am going to end the broadcast there, and I will see you all later.